Howdy, thanks for joining me today. Pretty beautiful out. Springtime has hit. Time to clear some trees. So I'm working on this tricky tree right near the cabin. It's within range. It's leaning towards the cabin, but it needs to go. I need to get some sunlight in here. So what you're looking at is my connection from my rope to the come along. But I'll explain the process here of how you take down these tricky trees without hiring somebody. Like, they were going to charge me like $500 a tree to take these kind of trees down. That's just unheard of to me, so I'll do it myself. And if you're wondering how to do it, here's my method. So I'll show you the throw bag. It's the first step. Okay, so you got a bag here. You basically got to slingshot it or toss it, like David and Goliath. You got to swing that puppy up to the branch on the tree you're trying to get. I can find it. Let's see. There it is. So I threw the throw bag up there. I got it in the crotch of the tree, and then I tied that green rope to it, and I basically just keep pulling it till the green rope's up. And then you pull the throw bag down with the green rope attached and tie it off to the bottom of the tree. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, there it is. So I kind of, and remember, when you're doing this, you got to leave room for the cut underneath it. But you're just, I basically just tie double knots. I do a lot of tension. I'm not a Boy Scout. I don't know how to do all those fancy knots, but you just keep tugging and pulling and doing knots, and you'll get it to work. So I got it nice and tight, and then I attach it to the come along. But the come along needs an anchor tree, so that's what I chose. This big mamba over here, and you can see I got the come along ready. So every time I crank, it's just gonna pull tension in that rope. So it's basically just going to pull the tree I'm trying to take down towards me. So the thing about this is you kind of got to know your physics. Got to become a master at physics, or else you're going to hit something you don't want to hit. So it's leaning a little towards the cabin. So it's going to come this way. And instead of trying to pull it straight back, away from the cabin, I'm trying to pull it to the side so that I'm basically trying to get to land here, in this area. So this tree is sort of way over here, yanking it this way, but it's going to come towards the cabin a little bit, but there should be enough tension to where it doesn't come straight towards the cabin. It kind of goes diagonal along the side. But you got to figure all this out when you're out here. So I've got it all set up. This is really the hardest part, is getting the dang throw bag up in the right crotch of the tree, getting everything set up, and then just cutting it. And cutting it should be the easy part. Alright, here's what we're working with. First, you gotta look straight up the tree, and you'll tell where it's gonna fall. Fortunately, that thing's pointing right towards the cabin. You gotta walk all the way around these guys You'll see it's also pointing a little bit this way, tiny bit, but most of the weight of the top is going directly in the wrong way. All right, here's a side angle so you can see this thing. The top of it's leaning to the right towards my cabin. So either way, I want to get rid of this thing. Probably ain't gonna fall over by itself for a while, but I like clearing any tree that is leaning the wrong way. And I got the big mamba, the giant pine behind me here. So what I'm trying to explain is, like, you want to pull it, I'm pulling it this way towards me so I can get it to go diagonal. You know, if I just cut it, it would fall right on the cabin. But if I have this tension set and I pull it back and towards me, it should fall diagonal in this clearing I got. You know, this is where we're aiming for. It's kind of here. But this is a pretty dicey tree to take down. I think I figured it out. All right, I'm gonna get to cutting. Okay. So that's called a Humboldt cut, or a Humboldt notch, that I'm making. Basically, you cut about 30% into the tree. You make a notch, and this is supposed to help it realize when the back's almost cut, fall this way, right? Yeah, so now I want to pull on the come along, get some more tension going, and see if I can watch the tree tilt the way I want it. I'm super careful about this. It takes hours and hours, really. You can easily mess it up, so take your time when you're doing this stuff. All right, it's almost go time. So basically what I'm going to do is cut into the back of the tree I'm taking down, inch by inch, little by little, and I'm going to go to that come along, crank, 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 and I'm going to try and down the tree by cranking the come along, and pulling it, to where it finally has enough tension to lean and fall. Instead of cutting it till it falls, I kind of want to cut it, crank it, and eventually get it to come down by itself. All right, so I hope this works. Hope the camera doesn't get hit. did it. Yes. All right. Perfect. Exactly where you want it. It takes hours to get to this point, but man, when it falls in the right spot, ooh, it feels good. Let's do a little after action report. So here's the base of the tree. It's still dangerous. So basically all of this, you can see where I cut it here. Some cuts are better than others, but this part here that's still attached, that's called the hinge. And you can see here how the hinge all snapped. So that's what's holding the tree in place while you're bending it. And then eventually, once you bend it enough to where there's so much weight on the top, it'll snap this. But this is a very important part of taking down trees, understanding the hinge, because you want to have it there while you're doing this, so everything goes slow and nothing really, it doesn't just fall out of the blue when you didn't expect. So you always want a little bit of a hinge, when you're doing this. So you can see here, that's the pine, big giant pine that I was anchored to. And then the cabin's over this way, so it was a pretty successful diagonal shot that I made. And I've actually ran into an issue where I couldn't rope a tree, and I was down in it, and I didn't see the lean on it, and it started going towards the road and would have hit power lines. And I mean, it was like twice the size of this one. It was super thick. And a lot of frustration in that tree. I think I worked on it for like 4 or 5 hours. But if all else fails, you can use a pump jack. You can, kind of back here when you're notching the tree. And that's why I say it's important to have that hinge, because if you see it start going the wrong way, that hinge is the only thing holding it together. But what you could do is make a little square in the back here and use your pump jack and try to force it the right way. And I eventually had to do that with a gigantic tree. So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know. It's one of those things. It'd be nice if you just had like a big machine, or I've seen people with like excavators just like push them over. Like they just lean the bucket on one side and push it while somebody cuts. If you got all the fancy stuff, that's the best way to do it. But if all else fails, you got a pump jack. Enjoy yourselves.